Elections and Intergovernmental Relations Committee. I'm joined today by Marquise Harris Dawson, so we do have a quorum. Mr. Clerk, could you quickly read the items and then we'll begin with public comment?
Yes, sir. Item number 1, motion relative to the appointment of Greg Smith to fill the vacancy in the office of the council member for the 12th District. Item number 2, City Ethics Commission report relative to amending the Los Angeles City Employees Retirement System Conflict of Interest Code. Item number 3, Ethics Commission report relative to amending the Los Angeles Municipal Code regarding the bidder disclosure requirements in the campaign finance ordinance and the municipal lobbying ordinance. Item number 4, Ethics Commission report relative to amending the municipal code regarding technical adjustments for filing deadlines in the campaign finance ordinance. And item number 5, CLA report and resolutions relative to recommendations for the city, state, and federal legislative programs regarding the arts and humanities.
Okay, thank you very much. So why don't we start off by calling up, is there a Mr. Heim Grossman? Okay, let's go then to Mr. Previn. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Previn, and you'll be followed by Mr. Herman. Good morning and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. Happy New Year to you, too. A couple of items on the agenda having to do with the Ethics Commission. First of all, everybody loves Greg Smith. I don't think that's in dispute. But there are some questions about lobbying activity during his period between serving and you sticking him in CD12. So I asked the Ethics Commission, who are tied up, although they're all right here. So I think we need to take a look at that. There's nothing personal against the man. He's a great man. Everybody loves working with him. But he wired up a lot of the waste stuff down here, and you're not supposed to go out and lobby is a rule that they made. So I just think we have to look at it, face it, and then we can all move forward. I also think that the item 1269S6 is an opportunity to clarify that you will not be disclosing campaign funds that you personally are collecting for your county supervisor race at the LA City Ethics Commission website, because it's vague. So you've added, we only have to do that for city elections. But I think that folks feel that because you're so powerful, sir, and fantastic and influential, that if people want to contribute into your county basket, what might happen is city favors may just materialize, and who the hell can tell, because you're running the whole damn show. So this is why the people of the city of LA, I think, have an opportunity to see that. Now, I will say that Waste Management is a company that has done $1.8 million worth of lobbying down here, and Mr. Smith only is responsible for about 10% of that as a lobbyist. The other is for Englander, Knabe and Allen, a large portion, and then some in the early years from some other groups. But Englander, Knabe and Allen, sir, are our treasured partners. I believe that you, Harvey Englander, Mitch Englander, so this conspires to request that you cancel the special election, because Nicole Burnson could serve as the CD12 voting member, and then for 20 months, because evidently 9 months is good for Greg, but he doesn't want to do any more, because we got to get the 20 out of 22 months of campaigning going on in CD12, which is not what the people want. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herman, I saw him. Yeah, Mr. Herman.
Well, I hope Greg Smith can hold up to the standards and not be a corrupted politician like Jose Huizar, for the record. And in a timely manner regarding our shutdown, as you know, Herman Jason Wesson is running the show, regarding state and federal dollars in programs regarding art. Well, I'm a part of the art. I am the factor of art in Los Angeles. I decide what is good for the people and what is bad. As I try to demise Mr. Jose Huizar's art promotion at the time when he was an elected official in CD14 for putting up art all over our neighborhoods in El Sereno, Lincoln Heights, Boyle Heights, and creating an eyesore of factors that look like shit. So when it all comes down to humanitarian action and to institute a library of arts and museum, let me say something. Let us put an end or a shutdown to those who are spoiling our communities by negative infractions and lies and misleading the public in its purpose that you want arts. You've been stealing state and federal dollars for the time that I have been here at City Hall. And you tell me that you're going to put arts as a savior to what we need in our communities? Fuck you. 42 U.S.C. 1983. Because I'm in here in support of the FBI's investigation in corruption, conspiracy to lie to the public and take public funds in the manner of running the show, Herman Jason Wesson. Shut down, shut up, and I'm applying municipal code as I speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Herman. I saw you cover your ears, and I'm sorry that you had to hear that. But it's part of free speech, and it's something that we don't condone. We think people could choose their words more carefully, but we cannot restrict them. So the first one I know really caught you off guard, young lady. I think you were a little prepared for the last one. So I just want you to know that sorry that you had to hear that. Okay, so with that said, Mr. Clerk, why don't we move items 2 through 5? So on item 2, we will adopt the Ethic Commission's report. On items 3 and 4, we'll adopt the Ethics Commission report and request the city attorney to prepare and present draft ordinances. On item 5, we'll adopt the CLA report and resolutions, and if Mr. Harris Dawson has no questions, those items will be deemed approved. Okay, so that brings us where?
Item number 1.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Smith to come to the center table. It's good to see you, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. President.
My former colleague on this council, and I just want to say this, Mr. Harris Dawson, that you weren't there at the time, but not only is Mr. Smith one of the highest respected members of this council, he was very operative, knew how to get things done, and just a very good person, made solid arguments, and I can't think of a more experienced individual that we have anywhere in the city to be considered to come in and serve as a voting member of this council. Greg, I don't know why the council has not appointed someone. I think the last time we did that was in the 60s. I believe that the reason why the council's empowered to do that is because the people of this city recognized that there were going to be emergencies, that individuals were going to run for other offices, people were going to be offered other jobs, and the worst thing that can happen is to have a vacant council seat without a voting member. Now, I am not suggesting or promoting for in the future that every time there's an open seat that we would appoint someone as a voting member, but I think that that option should be vetted, because in some situations when the stars align perfectly, there could be perfect people, and I think that's what led us to you. We do not want to have the people of this district not represented. And if the council moves forward with its actions today, there will not be a break of service from a council person in this district. And that's why I recommended you, and others have recommended you to this body. I think if we had to do it all over again, I was at an event yesterday speaking before a current affairs crowd, and someone asked me the question that we're going to have to spend $2.4, $2.5 million on a special election, and they asked if it was worth it. And we always want to afford the people the opportunity to vote for their representative. But it was then suggested that somebody like a Mr. Smith could have finished the whole term. Now, I know that Mrs. Smith probably wouldn't have been happy with that recommendation, but in the future, that could be a possibility. And I do believe if we would have engaged individuals from this council district, that they would have indicated to us that they would have said, take that $2.5 million, spend it on homelessness or something, because we would be happy to have Mr. Smith for the duration. So I think by appointing Mr. Smith now, in the future, it will give the council the option to look at those things. The only concern is you don't want to give people an advantage, and that's why I want to have Mr. Smith chat for a moment and publicly state where he is, where it relates to being elected or running for this seat. So, Mr. Smith, thank you and your family. And again, I apologize to, I believe, is your granddaughter. And why don't you just, give us a little info and tell us what you think about this situation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Harris-Dawson. It's a pleasure to be here again, and it's an honor. You addressed something that was very interesting. The last time that this was done was John Ferraro, the man who this chamber is named after. And he was a permanent appointment to fill a vacancy, not a temporary. So he did fill out the term that it was existing at the time. So that is a wonderful option. I think what you're doing today is really forward-thinking. For 50 years, this council has not appointed anyone to fill a vacancy. There's been numerous vacancies. That left 250,000 people in this city without representation, which is a violation of our Constitution, for one. So what you're doing is very forward-thinking. I think it should be the model of the future. In this case, you were lucky you had an old-timer sitting on the bench. You could pull off the bench. But it doesn't always have to be someone who has served in the office. It could be someone who is from the community, like John Ferraro was, who was serving as a commissioner at the time, who could fill the vacancy as well. I think it's a perfect model, and I'm glad you're doing it. I think this council that we will address later today is going to go down as the model of the way to do things rather than the one-out option that you chose. So I hope you're setting a trend for the future, and I thank you very much for consideration. As far as I go, I don't know as well loved as the gentleman stated I was, but after 32 years in this building, this very chamber, 32 years, I have a lot of friends, but I'm sure I have a few enemies as well. But it's a pleasure to be back. When I was here, I was known as Mr. Recycling.
Yes.
And today you're recycling me, so it's kind of, it goes around. It's a perfect circle. To the gentleman's comments about waste management, I would love to address that. When I left the office and went to work, I did not go to work for Waste Management for a couple of years. When I did go to work for them, I went to the city ethics department. I went through ethics training. They cleared me to do that it was within the council policies and the city charter. And I only registered as a lobbyist because Waste Management wanted me to. In my entire year and a half as a lobbyist, I never once lobbied anybody in this building. I acted as a consultant, but Waste Management wanted to make sure that I was registered so there'd be no question. I never did lobby. In my last year or so, I worked for them as a consultant on recycling issues all over Southern California. And so my job with them is not lobbying and representation, but rather consulting from my expertise. In relationship to today, I've already had the ethics department look at it. Ms. So has already talked to the city attorney and ethics about that. They have cleared it, saying that I will be recused from any issues that deal with waste management directly, that they benefit from, and I cannot discuss it with anyone in this council or anyone on the staff. So it's very clearly in the public record. Any of those issues with that one client I did have, I will not discuss with anybody in this building at any time. And I'm more than happy to do that. Waste Management is fine with that. They understand it. So on that issue, as far as my time here, I've enjoyed working with some of you. We sat in that corner together.
Yes, we did.
You were my protector from Dennis Zine. You sat between us and kept me away from Dennis. But we worked together for many years, and it's a pleasure to come back. And maybe we could finally do that Smith-Wesson gun control bill we talked about.
That we talked about years ago. Mr. Harris Dawson? Okay. Why don't you, for the record, do you have any desire to seek re-election?
Oh, yes. No, I will not be running for election for the seat of the 12th District. That was my wife, probably. No, it wasn't.
No, it was not.
I will not be a candidate for election of the 12th District.
Okay, so with that said, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate your family because I know this is a sacrifice. So without objection, I'd like to recommend Greg Smith to be appointed as a council member and have, full responsibilities of council. And this will be without objection, this will be taken up in about 40 minutes before the full council. So let it be written, so let it be done. Anyway, thank you. Thank your family for coming down. Hang out for another 45 minutes and we'll get started.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, there's just a correction. For item number 1, it would be pursuant to Charter Section 409B, not
Okay.
409A.
All right, thank you. All right, so is there any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
Okay, then this committee's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.